day 2 of our National Workshop on Research Methodology and Academic Writing, organized by the Department of English, Veernagar, South Gujarat University. We are delighted to begin this session with a very distinguished speaker. I request Dr. Akshaya Kumar Rath to kindly come forward and take his seat on the dais. I now invite our chairperson for this session, Dr. Amit Prajapati, to kindly come forward and take his seat on the dais to chair the session. I request Professor Prajapati to kindly felicitate Dr. Rath. Thank you so much. Dr. Akshaya K. Rath is an Associate Professor of English, School of Humanities, Social Science and Management, IIT Bhubaneswar. He specializes in Indian religions and cultural studies. His work has appeared in renowned journals such as Kavya Bharati, Hypatia, Interventions, Journal of Gender Studies, South Asian Research, Explicator, and Rupkatha. His research focuses on historical texts and colonial period, especially around the discourse of criminality. He was an associate at IIAS Shimla from 2014 to 16 and has completed a major ICSSR sponsored project on the Andaman Panel settlement. His current project, Savarkar in the Andamans, explores the intersections of figures like V.D. Savarkar, R.N. Tagore, and M.K. Gandhi with a special colonial legal and penal systems. He has also been a visiting scholar at the University of Louisville, USA. His most recent book is Across the Black Water, The Andaman Archives, published by Oxford University Press in 2022. We are very honored to have him today with us. And with that, I now hand over this session to our esteemed chairperson. Over to you.
It's okay. I am actually waiting for the mic to come, cordless mic. But I think I am audible. I welcome especially Dr. Akshaya Kumar Rath and all of you to the post-mortem session. And as I understand, it is even going to be a challenge for the research person not to allow the audience to sleep post-lunch session. So I am also very curious to listen to him because his topic is why do theses fail? So I request you, sir, to begin with.
I don't need this. Could you just remove it?
Sir, you want this document?
No, it's all right.
Okay.
It can be displayed, it's fine. Otherwise,
It's distributed,
Okay.
so they have a copy.
I think I'm audible. Thank you, English, for inviting me. We shall be talking a little bit about how and why we do what we do, and what do we gain at the end of the master's or PhD program. How do we carry forward these things to our life, career, and to a life of satisfaction or happiness? That is how we shall continue. The food that we ate a couple of minutes ago, when did we prepare it? Meaning, what is its history? When did we prepare the sambar, for instance? How many years ago? Our place, Gujarat, is famous for, say, a couple of things. One among them would be dhokla, which we cherish back at home. How old is dhokla? About 50 years, 100, 1,000 years? I'm asking particularly the Gujarati community over here. Have we recorded who for the first time made dhokla? We haven't recorded this particular history. What allows us is indeed years of experiment and we reach towards perfection. The moment we reach a perfection, then our downtrend starts. So in research, we do not reach a perfection. We reach a couple of milestones. What we in the beginning think is we are writing a thesis when we are starting an MPhil or PhD work. For master students, it's a term paper. Sometimes it's a project report. What do we gain? What do we lose? We shall talk about it later. But let's go back to the history of food once again, because that is where our traditions have begun. When is it that we as humans settled down? What are the conditions that allowed us to settle down and made us different from all other animals in the world? Could you think of a milestone that allowed us to be different from all other animals? Printing process came much later. Thinking process, do animals think? They do. All right. Do animals express their feelings? All right. Think about it. What are the events, what are the conditions that made us different from all other animals in this universe? Is it language? Do animals speak? They have sounds. We also create noise. What we are doing is a couple of sounds. We are combining a couple of sounds to make our language. Similarly, animals also they communicate. So if you say sounds or combination of sounds, animals also to a significant extent make. Do they become creative? Do they respond to a situation? When in a relationship, animals do for reproduction. Anywhere else? When there is a calamity, they do. They do respond.
Presence of predator,
Predator?
of food,
Yes.
distance of food locations.
So what is it that makes us different from all other? Use of knowledge?
Imagination.
All right. Let me bring you back to our childhood. We heard a lot of stories when we started our life. Those who have become parents, probably your children would be asking a lot of questions. You would be telling them in the form of stories. How many of you have kids? All right. The front batch. So, um, remember when we were growing up, our parents, our teachers told us so many stories. In some stories there were animals, the monkeys chiefly. How many monkey stories do you know? The monkey and the crocodile. Yes. Um, there was this monkey and there was a piece of cake. There were two cats. The monkey and the hat seller. How many of you do not know this particular story? Monkey and the hat seller. 1, 2, 3, 4. I shall tell you this particular tale. For those who do not know, for those who know, I shall ask the second part of the tale. There was a man. He deals with hats and caps. One day he will be going in a jungle. He gets a headache. He sleeps under a tree. When he wakes up, he sees that all the caps are gone, except his own. He gets an idea that monkeys are playing with all the cats and hats. He gets an idea. He throws his cap away. All the monkeys imitate him. He's happy. He collects all the caps and hats and goes away. Here ends the tale. How many of you know what happened thereafter? This man, by chance, becomes a grandfather. Sorry. This man, not by chance, he becomes a grandfather. He becomes a grandfather. And children, they ask a lot of stories. Ask for a lot of stories, ask a lot of questions. So one day he will be narrating this particular event from his life to the grandson. The grandson is very happy. My father was a superhero. Right. So by chance this time, this boy grows up and deals with hats and caps. He'll be going in the same jungle. He gets a headache. He falls asleep under the same tree. What happens thereafter? When he wakes up, he sees that all the caps are gone. He has only one, and the monkeys are playing with all the hats and caps. He remembers his grandfather. Yes, my grandfather was a very wise man. He takes his own last hat away, throws it away. Then what happens? There will be an old monkey who jumps from onto the tree. He takes the cap away, saying, "Stupid, do you think you had only grandfather? You never had one." So this is the knowledge system that we share in common. We tell narratives, we tell a lot of stories to understand how in this universe we grow, how in this universe we communicate, how in this universe we write histories. In this process, we create lots and lots of narratives. So for instance, children, they start asking what happened thereafter. We recreated the tale to suit the global audience, and our audience at this point of time are probably much, much smarter than what we were. We are reinventing tales. We are reinventing stories. The 1 hour break that you got right now, how many of you watched at least 5 reels? The short videos? How many?
During the break.
During the break? Show me your hand who watched at least 5 reels.
Be honest.
Be honest. I watched 1, 2, 3, 4. Throughout the day, on this busy day, how many of you watched at least 5? See, that's the world that we are living in. How many of you have started installing ChatGPT in your mobile? Let's see hands.
They have already.
How many of you are using it frequently? At least once a week? Do you think your writing could be much better than ChatGPT? How many of you say that? I doubt it. Yes, we are dealing with such an audience that knows ChatGPT, and for a particular thesis, they will certainly use ChatGPT or any other device. We are dealing with a generation of researchers, knowingly or unknowingly, and we meaning not you, we included. We are using hundreds and hundreds of tools available for us. But what allows us to go beyond ChatGPT and make sense of the text or the communications that we are going to have, that is what we shall be discussing. Say for instance, when the British came to Surat for the first time, they had a long questionnaire at hand, whether if you take away or dig out diamonds from a particular place, after a certain couple of years, does it grow back? Their questions meant in such a manner that the British people or the Europeans would come and start looking at places where diamonds were found. If you start typing enquiries regarding Surat in a standard journal holding website like Joster, you will find at least 200 pages of enquiries regarding Surat. So anything that you published in at that point of time, the journals of Royal Society of England, geographical and others, that came to be known as knowledge. Anything that was published beyond these circles, they were not considered knowledge. Say for instance, when in 1611 King James published or allowed the translation of the Bible, it became a standard version because it was authorized by a king. Just like that, at this point of time, what the UGC wants, what the other journal indicators they allow you to publish in, Say for instance in Scopus indexed journals or UGC care listed journals, they are only considered knowledge. Beyond this, if you are publishing something, it's not considered knowledge. But there is another school of thought. Just like a couple of years ago, we taught only classics. Now we are dealing with the life of a Dalit man, for instance, the life of a Bengal seller, for instance, and we are stating that that person's life equally matters in this universe and also can become a subject of study. Just like that, we are coming to the 17th century in the academia. Unless your publication is listed in a particular care list or in a particular scopus list, it's not considered knowledge. Welcome to the other way around, a different world altogether. So, in the academics, we are preaching that a particular section of people, they were never studied, they have become subject of study. At the same time, we are preaching that if you publish not here, including the journals, it will not be considered knowledge. So your life is now on the edge, whether to go this way or the other way around. So as scholars, you should understand the meanings in such different categories of thoughts. As scholars, when you are starting to get into the life of a research scholar, you should know, yes, what it would mean for my career, for my society, and also for my university. That's why the handouts are given to you, how to begin, how to proceed, and so on and so forth. Yes, you know ChatGPT, right? How many of you know of Web of Science? So that's a question for the students, research scholars. Yes, so those who do not know, note it down. We should know a couple of terms since you are beginning with the master's program or the research work. Yes, have you heard of a term called plagiarism? What is it? Copying the work of someone else, the words, the ideas. Yes, if it's an original idea, is it done?
Yes, it's
Huh.
like
Yes, if it's an original idea, I think there's some change.
ચાલુ
come back.
ચેક
Yes, better. So, what's plagiarism? Stealing someone's ideas? Work? Stealing is not the right word over here. Copying, reproducing. Alright.
and without acknowledging.
Without acknowledging. Our students should know that. Our scholars should know that. Yes. So, right over here, the product that you will be holding at hand, that would be a thesis. What are the byproducts that you have? It could be an article to be published in a journal. It could be a chapter to be published in a book. It could be, say, some kind of intellectual property for which a design or a particular architecture or art that you would take copyright from. Yes, so those are the byproducts. The seminar or conference that you would attend, put that in your CV on a later day, that's a byproduct of the thesis that you would be producing. But your actual product is the thesis. But now even the UGC has made it mandatory that unless you attend 2 conferences, publish 1 or 2 papers, you cannot submit your thesis. So byproducts first, then comes your product. It could have been the other way around, just like when we started reading, this wasn't compulsory. Now, welcome to the different world altogether. We have to do a couple of things, but the institutes which have grown far bigger in terms of, say, acknowledgement of the government, like the IITs, they have done it almost 10 years ago. The UGC is just doing it right now, and a proper change would certainly come. That unless a couple of things like our publications are listed in Scopus on a future day, it will not be considered knowledge by the government of India. Welcome to 17th century, but that's the reality. So what our scholars need to do from the beginning itself is look at two categories of correctness. One, in terms of language, second, in terms of content. In terms of content, Professor Siddharth Sarpathy was speaking about it throughout the 2-hour session. How to create new knowledge, how to create new content from coming from the local to the global, moving from the local to the global. What we are going to do, we take that forward in a couple of passages. See what kind of questions that we can ask. See the correctness of our language. See the correctness of our questions. Because a well-raised question would frame also a good thesis, a much better thesis than what we are producing at this point of time. Otherwise, a tradition of writing is actually becoming junk. How many theses are we producing in India right now? Approximately a lakh theses, including all research institutes. If they solve one problem, say in the sciences, how many problems in this universe might have solved by now? That means what we are producing is not solving any problem. What we are producing cannot directly solve a problem. No one gives you the Nobel Prize for a PhD thesis, right? So what we do actually is to get some pleasure. What we do actually is to enhance knowledge in a particular subject when we are into research work. These are two things that we shall learn. So how do we approach a text, for instance, over here? Look at our handouts. We have circulated some. We are looking, for instance, at a thesis. The thesis has a title, and by thesis I mean a kind of argument that has some length. What is the actual meaning of the word thesis? It's an argument supported by scientific evidences. That is a thesis. So you could say my thesis statement. You could say if the whole thing is an argument supported by scientific statements, yes, this is my thesis. What do you call an MPhil thesis or an MPhil dissertation? What's the difference between a thesis and a dissertation? Do you call a master's thesis or master's dissertation? Think about it. So when we are actually looking at a thesis, look at the kind of questions that we can frame, and that is how you will be judged. So our approach in the next 15 to 20 minutes would be, how do we judge or evaluate a thesis? How do we judge the publications that we are supposed to send to a publishing journal? So I believe that at this point of time our scholars must have started looking at a couple of journals. But let's see how to evaluate the titles, how to evaluate the content. Say for instance, the thesis that we read, there could be a 20-page document to 200-page document. What's the longest thesis that you have seen? Longest book that you have seen? As scholars of English language, what could be your largest book? The Oxford English Dictionary? What would be our longest book? Largest? Probably the Oxford English Dictionary.
No, Encyclopedia Britannica.
For English language students. Or linguistics.
Encyclopedias in literature.
In literature, we have, I think, Middlemarch or this novel by.
Mm-hmm. Possible.
So,
What's the shortest thesis that you have seen? 30 page? So probably our scholars need to go back, look for what is the shortest thesis in the world, PhD thesis. What is the longest one in the world? Probably you should know that. You should know why is it called, say for instance, PhD. Should it be called DPH, Doctor of Philosophy? Why is it called PhD? What is the original phrase? Our scholars need to go to those details even, to the beginning of a particular word till they can actually produce a PhD thesis. So it should be as simple as that. So the most documents that we read, probably the largest would be Oxford English Dictionary with its 23 volumes, um, or Encyclopedia Britannica, of course, but that's not our subject currently. So as students of English literature and thought and cultural studies, probably that would be our longest book at this point of time. What would be our shortest book? Who rules the universe? Money. If you are writing a book like that, one complete book with just the word money in Surat, who rules the universe? That should be the shortest book probably.
Rules of life.
Yes. So, but we are people, we are not dealing with the extremes at this point of time. We are making sense of a master's life, we are making sense of a PhD life. We are making sense of, say for instance, the thesis that we are holding. Look at how may we dissect the thesis now. Look at our first category of questions. What is the title of the thesis? Is it grammatically and structurally correct? What does it say? Does it hint at anything? What does it hint at? Are there special tweaks in that provide special clues to the text that follow? Is it too general? Is it too specific? For instance, does it highlight the word Andhra Pradesh and place India in the title? Are we looking at the title of a particular thesis or a particular article? The first thing that you should be in a position to evaluate whether it is too general or too specific. If you can do that, then our next phase starts. So, and of course one must return to ask the consequent questions after reading the thesis about how far and how effectively the title led to the contents of the thesis. So you would be doing this category of exercise, the examiner would be doing the other category of exercise after reading the thesis, that whether you should succeed or fail, whether you need a revision for the thesis or you need the viva voce to be conducted, that whether you need to modify your title or you pass right over there. The reviews that we come across for our articles when we send them for publication, chiefly there are too many comments with regard to the title, that the title is too vague, that the title is too general, the title is too specific and does not attend to, say for instance, a larger framework of people. So in all these cases, what happens? We begin with the title and we return to the title once again. So with what does the thesis begin? And thesis here would also mean a manuscript. How does it begin? And you could do a similar kind of exercise when you are going to deal with a particular topic also. And the series of questions thereafter, we have tried to point them out so that you can self-evaluate yourself. We shall quickly go through them and move to the exercise that follows. Yes, how does it begin? The language, the content chosen, the first sentence, the first paragraph, and the first chapter. Does it begin with a rationale? Say for instance, this thesis deals with the history of food in Bihar, or say for instance Gujarat. But the history of food itself would be a very large subject for a person who deals with, say for instance, agriculture. It will be very big for a person who deals with, say, micro things. So whether or not you would use the word food history, or within food history you have to find a particular word to suit your texts, that will matter more. So does it begin with a rationale, and what is the rationale? Does it begin with an event, for instance? See, you were trying to make sense of a particular text. The moment you are dealing with research. In that case, how does your text begin? How does your article begin? How does your abstract begin? How does your thesis begin? Do they begin with a couple of questions? Do they begin with an event? Does your chapter begin with an event? Does it begin with a case study, for instance? And from here, how do you proceed forward? As the writer, how do you proceed? As the examiner, how do we proceed? In the first half, you saw that conceiving a topic is probably, it takes some time. But moving forward from the topic, going towards the actual depth of the work, it takes you a lot of time. What Professor Satpathy was telling you, that you will be caught in 5 minutes if you are caught by a person who studies. So the narratives, how do you proceed from there? What do you write so that people know you have the depth in your work? Sometimes it happens that we know the subject quite well, but we are unable to produce it. We are unable to produce it and get it into the right kind of journal that we are supposed to go to. We go to the journals which do not have access, they do not have a digital presence now. So what we publish, it dies down in about 3 to 4 months or goes to the archive of a library. And we are dealing with generations of people, those who are dealing with reels. They do not go to the archive. So it's in fact a sincere call to your people to look at both the world and proceed. So does it begin with summarizing existing knowledge? That's your review of literature. Or information on a particular subject. Say for instance, you have started writing critically. Part or the beginning of your work might begin with a couple of questions, but if you need to get into a big journal, the first things that you have to do is to summarize what information, what knowledge system or knowledge tradition you already have on a subject. Then find a research gap. You need to do your intervention right over there. Then you can succeed in terms of, say, publishing a good piece of work. Yes, what is your reaction to it all? What happens when you listen to a story? You read a book. What happened when we narrated the story of the monkey? You laughed. Did that give you some kind of a pleasure? Did that give you some knowledge? Probably did not give us much knowledge, but it certainly pleased us. Right. So you will see now a tradition of rewriting. Say for instance, how many times did we write the history of Caliban in post-colonial literature? We wrote that in Caribbean, Caribbean island, we wrote that in Africa, we wrote that in India. We wrote several texts just based on Tempest. How many theses did we produce based on Tempest? 1,000 probably throughout the globe. Our teachers would be in a position to state. We are still producing a couple of them. But we are still teaching the Tempest, we are still teaching the rewritings of the text Tempest. The most recent I could probably see was in 2006 when Suniti Namjoshi rewrote Psychorax and other poems. In Psychorax comes back from the dead, is alive, and she writes the narratives of Psychorax that she was tricked in the island and was sent out to banishment to another island. So Psychorax returns to reclaim the island after Prospero leaves. So what's happening in this kind of narratives? That these kinds of narratives are not just reimagining, fashioning earlier narratives, they are giving you a space to speak more, to make sense of what is not written, and with that form a different kind of knowledge that was not available to the audience at that point of time. So our job as scholars, as critics, as writers of thesis, and as evaluators of thesis, as producers of those texts and reviewers of those texts are quite different. But our approach towards the target is the same. Say for instance the title, whether it is too general, too vague. From there, where does the narrative go? Go to the second page for instance. Which parts and aspects of the attitude or argument are sustained? So in the beginning, you have already spoken about your intent. You have asked 3 questions or 4, or you have given the proposition. You have started with a review of literature. You are suggesting a gap within the first couple of paragraphs, say in the first passages itself. But this could just be a structure, not the structure. Please do understand. So from there, how do we proceed? Which part of the arguments or attitudes are taken forward for discussion, which are sustained, which are modified, and why? How are they rationalized, the language chosen and the rationale chosen? What is your reaction to it all? So, just like why am I doing it, this particular question has to be written down properly in the first part itself. So, how does it make you different from the term papers that you are producing? How does the term paper differ from that of a thesis? The thesis has a more organized structure. Say for instance, to an event like that of what we are doing right now, our approaches will be different. The approach of a journalist would be different. The approach of an academician would be different. So, just like that, the thesis, for the thesis, the approach of a reviewer would be different. The approach of other people would be different. However, when it goes to a journal to be published, they will definitely see the exclusive audience. But nowadays, the journals, they do not sell to exclusive audiences only. They do not. So now, even if it's a scientific article on a subject as different as, say, green gas emission, they have started asking you to write the abstract in layman's term. And layman's term would mean, in our times, we used to say how the grandmother would understand. So you have to now cut it down, the abstract, to that level where it should be meant for people, those who are also in the industry, those who are also in same journalistic level of thought. So from there, how do we proceed? So as students of literature, history, and so on and so forth, our setting becomes important. What is the time? What is the place? Special characteristics, rationale of time and place, objects contained in the setting. How are these parts put forward in the beginning of abstract, and so on and so forth. So what is required right over here is to get hold of the text, ask 20 different questions for 5 different categories of audiences. This is what we shall do in a moment. Say for instance, the subject that we saw, the story that we saw a couple of minutes ago when we were beginning. Does it make sense to a child? Will a child understand the story? Yes or no? Will a child laugh at it or not? As a grown-up, would you be in a position to laugh similarly like a child? The first story is generally told to children. The second one circulates among friends, among professional groups, among people those who consider themselves non-children anymore. Right? So there could be also 3 or 4 versions of the tales which would circulate. Say for instance, the story of Red Riding Hood. How many times did you hear it? Once or twice when you were in childhood? Once or twice you were singing them in the form of songs. When you grew up in the English department, they showed you 5 different versions of Red Riding Hood. Do you think the wolf was so full that he didn't know that there was a grandmother in the jungle? Do you think the wolf was so dumb not to eat Red Riding Hood and go eat the grandmother? And hundreds of questions which the narratives they put forward. It also indicates that there is a scope for us to work within the tradition of rewriting. The scope begins by asking numerous questions. What are the questions meant for children? What are the questions meant for PG scholars? What are the questions meant for us within the tradition of literary and cultural criticism? Look for instance at the last page. We shall give you a very small text. It's about how the Oxford English Dictionary came into being. It's something of that sort. Very simple. It has a definition of the word dictionary. Why is it used? How it is used? And how do we create a dictionary? Let's read it quickly. It will take about 3 minutes.
Project it.
I could display it from here.
You want to
You
display?
have the copy?
I have.
You can do it here. I will.
Okay, okay.
I'm not comfortable in
Yeah,
it because my hand moves. Circulate. Let's go through it quickly. I believe it's done. Give me 3 keywords from the paragraph which we should pick for a summary of the passage. What should be our first keyword? Don't you say dictionaries should be the first one to be picked? Don't you say lexicography is the one? The first keyword. Yes, any other keyword to be picked? Sorry? Correct usage of words. Next. Can that be a keyword? If we are to pick 3 keywords, what are those keywords? Mm-hmm. Yes. Dictionary, lexicography. That's dictionary making. Any other? Let's be quick. Okay, go on. Now, linguistic theory, possibly yes. Can you highlight them? Can you underline them? Yes. Now come to the real question. The first one. We are supposed to ask 2 different sets of questions so that people would be in a position to understand and answer this from this particular passage. What should be our first question to a child? Suppose this passage is to be introduced to a child. What's the first question that you should ask? Shall I help you? What's a dictionary? That's the first one, to a child. Second, what is the usage of dictionary? Third, look at your passage. Ma'am, not for you. It's for masters and PhD students. Yes, for the children. Who is the founding father of the OED? Should that be a question? Possibly. 4. Very simple. Alright, if you don't know anything, you say what is the meaning of authoritative records? Right. What is the meaning of authoritative records? Can you give us an example of which text could be an authoritative text? Alright. So what are the primary questions that we asked? What's a dictionary? List, let's be quick. See, if you don't participate, at the end of the master's or PhD program, it will be difficult for you to engage people. Please do understand. So, it's the time to do the real work also. You fix your topic, but at the same time, you talk about your topic to an audience that's as significant as ours. So if we are to ask 5 different questions to be answered by children from the given passage, what are our 5 questions? What's a dictionary? 1. 2. Be quick. What's the usage of a dictionary? 3. Who is the founding father of dictionary? What is the meaning of lexicography? What is an authoritative text? Look at our questions once again. What? Which? In what year? Who? These are the questions that we are asking. Take it a level up. Say, take it towards students, those who are graduating from high school. They are going towards class 11th and 12th. Now they have a sense of maturity. Find 2 questions which should be asked for those people from within the passage. All right. Can you make that in the form of a question, please? Very good. Second, anyone? Yes, right over there. 2 minutes more. Those who cannot speak, they could write if they wish. Alright, so right over there, how do we take this passage forward, teach it to people, those who are, say, in a master's classroom? Now we could ask 3 to 5 questions for children. We could ask only one question for people, those who are graduating from high school. Will you be in a position to frame one question so that it can be introduced in a master's level classroom? Take it forward. You got about 2 minutes. Can a research question come out of it? Mm-hmm. Why do lexicographers need? All right. You could ask a couple of questions with regard to linguistic theory, correct? You could ask several questions with regard to, say, language technology. Will this passage in any way fetch some money for you? Will this passage in some way give you ideas about how to get a patent? Have you heard of this word patent? Will this particular passage give you something so that you can get a copyright? Is it possible for you? On the outset, it looks like a very small passage with regard to what is a dictionary, how is it produced. In reality, as a scholar, can you approach it in such a manner that it might give you some intellectual property rights, some amount of money, some amount of honor in the academy? Think about it. If yes, how? What is a speech community? Speakers of a particular group, a particular language. Which languages are dying in this part of Gujarat? And it's supposed to be southern Gujarat. There have been multiple small languages within these regions. Can you speak about them? Who is the last speakers of the smallest possible language in this particular region? Can you preserve them? If you can, that gives you a Padma Shri, for instance. That takes you towards that. Say, for instance, you speak about the speech community, the last speech communities, that itself becomes a thesis. Preservation of those languages within, say, mainstream Gujarati, that allows you to go beyond it. You make, for instance, the special vocabulary of them. You talk about their morphology, you talk about their development, growth, and now the state of dying, and you take that to the digital culture, for instance. That allows you as the documentation of the language community, speech community, a patent that allows you to take copyright of a particular sketch that you draw, say for instance a community that's dying in terms of language. And the possibilities are many. Think about it. Is there any other possibility as students of English language and literature you could approach such a paragraph and take it towards your own merit? That you produce a thesis that could be useful, that could also generate funds, that would also give you some kind of intellectual property for which you may possibly become a name in the future. We'll give you 2 minutes more to think. Any other thing that you could devise from this passage? Mm-hmm. Why don't you take that to the reels that we watched? You are seeing 500 reels per day where Chinese women are just eating noodles. Have you not watched? That there are very heavy people, they are just eating 20 eggs, 200 eggs. Those have become reels, right? So why not take it from there towards a larger goal, for instance? Thank you for that response. Yes, any other possibility that our scholars can think of? Please understand the topic that you are working on. We are going to, say for instance, talk about it for the next 10 to 12 years. That means in layman's term, you should say we are selling our subject for 10 years before changing the subject. So that's, yes, that's another response.
What's the evolution of a dictionary with the latest vocabulary, Gen Z vocabulary?
Of Gen Z vocabulary. Alright. Have you seen a funny dictionary? Have you seen Devil's Dictionary? Why don't you search? Search on the internet. There's something called the Devil's Dictionary. You could find it. Go for a word like handkerchief in that dictionary. Look what interesting characters you would find over there. You would find Othello, Desdemona, and the whole history of Shakespeare right over there within just one particular entry. Yes. So, is it not possible for you to think out of the box, create something afresh, rather than talking about Shashi Deshpande and the 3 texts that we were talking about in the beginning? That is it not possible to create a dictionary and talk about the making of the dictionary and write a PhD project? See, a smaller paragraph like this might take you, if you start brainstorming, it will give you a lot of topics that might become creative. You might be interested in the work and you are doing a real contribution, just like we have been accused of for a very long time that we just talk in the English department, nothing happens. We talk about literary works and they do not have much direct impact on society. So if we are to look for a proper impact, it is to come from this particular thinking. Right. So let's go to the second part of what we were doing in the beginning. We were to check the correct usage of language before actually looking at the content. Look at our sample text 2. Let's correct it quickly and see how may we check the frequency of errors in our own writing. Look at our text 2. Those who are holding it, use a pen to correct it. Those who do not have a copy, you could see it over here. We got about 3 minutes. Two minutes more. Yes, those who completed, look at the passage again and see and answer whether it is copied from internet sources or not. Is it possible to look at a text and say whether it is a copied one or a composed one? You got 1 minute to think also. Should I write copied or composed? Okay, guess. Those who say copied, those who say composed. Look at the punctuations right over there. If you go to this place, go to Thoros. That's an HTML code. Directly lifted and pasted. So the people would know from there that something is wrong. Not that it is completely plagiarized, rather something is wrong with it. At least the quotation part is copied and pasted to the text that you are displaying. And there are several other places when you are trying to reproduce from internet sources, people are in a position to find out just by looking at the text. And the moment we get some doubt like that, then we reject the piece, saying that this might have been reproduced. So what's happening right now is that there is an AI world that you are familiar with. There is an AI world that we are familiar with. There is an AI world that Turnitin is familiar with. So all are at work. You are trying to get into ChatGPT, produce content. We are asking you not to do it, and there are people those who are ready to blame us. Right. So let's go back to the text once again. How many of you introduced parenthesis by 1817? Let's see those hands. How many of you forgot it? Was of philosopher. How many of you added an A? How many of you forgot it? Best known for his attacks on American. A to be capitalized. How many of you missed it? Does it mean that you do not know A is to be capitalized? You know it, but you are too consumed by the internet world, your WhatsApping activities, that you are typing I like I small almost every day. And you are consumed by it, so we are unable to point it out at the right moment. In this particular hall, everyone knew it. Just 5 people did miss it. It means that we are being consumed. Yes, social institutions and his respect for nature and simple living. He was heavily. Anyone who missed that? Need to go back to grammar again. By the writer Ralph Waldo. W. Who missed it? 5 people. Yes. So social media activities to be corrected. So we are not saying that you don't go and don't do WhatsApp. We are just saying that do WhatsApp correctly. That if you are typing you, it's not you, rather you. Type in that way. That will make us more human. Yes. So that is where we began, and that is where we would conclude. Now, a philosophy central to thorough thinking and writing. That HTML code, you know now what to do. So if you get such a thing on a future day, just to cheat your supervisor, make it a proper one. Thinking and writing, T and W, to be small. In addition to civil disobedience, how many of you italicized it, underlined it? Yes, that you would get from your MLA handbook. What is the current edition? Ninth edition. And I believe you will have a copy each, right? There is a comma right over there. Thoreau is best known for his book Walden, which dash documents documented. Vote for documents. Vote for documented. Past event, but the issue in a book stays for a very long period of time. Which tense do you use? Simple present. His experiences living alone dash Walden Pond. At Walden Pond in Massachusetts from 1845 to 1847. Throughout, how did you write it? One word? 2 words? Sure. How many words is up to? UPTO, 1 word, UPTO, 2 words. Those who say 1 word, let's see. Hands, UPTO up to. Those who say 2 words, let's see hands. There's nothing called UPTO up to 1 word in the dictionary. We are too consumed by the hoardings that we see outside. In spite of how many words? 2 words, 3 words. Those who say 3 words, let's see hands. Those who say 2 words, let's see hands. In spite of his 3 words. And a generation of linguistic learning has gone wrong because of what we see outside and now because of WhatsApp. Please make sure that when we are writing our thesis, our papers, we write it correctly. So throughout over here is correct. It's one word. His life thorough emphasized the importance of individuality and self-reliance. So he practiced. Is there a difference in spelling? SCD should be the correct one. But in American English, SCD does not exist. It's CED for both verb and noun. Civil disobedience in his own life and spent how many nights? That should come from the next line, right? So all night in jail. How do you write the word jail? Small j. How many of you missed that? Almost several. For his refusal to pay taxes in protest of the Mexican War. And we shall move on to the next one. Thoreau was opposed to the practice of slavery in some of the territories, in plural, involved. Thoreau delivered, it is thought that this night in jail prompted Thoreau to write the book, Civil Disobedience, that has to be italicized. That would come from your MLA handbook. So that's something that you need to go to. Thoreau delivered the first draft of the treatise as an oration to the Concord Lyceum in 1848, and the text was published in 1849 under the title Resistance to Civil Government. Any error over there? T should be small, right? So it's not that we do not know things. As scholars, you need to pay a lot of attention to the formalities also sometimes or the other. Yes. Do you have any questions so far? Let's get back to the next series of questions, page number 2. Yes. So we have started composing a thesis. We have got a title. We are grammatically sound. We are in a position to ask a couple of questions. We are taking them towards a proper argument, suggesting a lot of scientific evidences from texts. Does that make your thesis? Please understand that part. Is there a difference between a report that you compose for a company, and is there a difference between that report and the thesis that you produce? What are the differences? The differences should come from this depth that we are talking about and the details that we have been speaking about. So, are there grammatical errors, punctuation errors, errors in formatting? And look at our text. Yes. Are there mismatch in terms of font size, footnotes, further explanations, error in referencing style? All this would come from now our own learning of years. What is reference? That should come from your MLA or the format that we are going to get in the university. Most importantly, are the sentences and paragraphs connected to each other? Please do understand that since we belong to the stream English department, we have started forgetting to ask questions about sentences and paragraphs, thinking that we have done really well in life. As a result, we suffer a lot. Get back to those simple questions that we began with. What makes us different from all other animals in this universe? Go back to that question. Is it language? No. Imagination, do they know how to construct a house? Sometimes in a much better fashion. Do they become creative while dancing, creating a house to stay, fend for themselves? Yes. What allows us as humans to be different is our ability to displace things. We displace through our language the present till an extreme past, the present towards an extreme future. That we are in a position to refer to what happened a million years ago. That we are in a position to talk about the future. This is what makes us different from all other animals or other species. That our language allows us to displace us from here to that past, extreme past, long past. Our ability to go to the future a long time from this particular point to the future. That is how our language becomes creative, more creative than that of the animal. How long does an animal mourn, for instance? Couple of minutes, a day, 2, 3. How many days do you mourn the dead? 12 in Hinduism? In Islam? 30 or 40? When does the soul reach heaven? In Islam, when does the soul reach heaven? 40 days? Probably. 40, right? Yes. In Hinduism, how many days do you mourn? 12? 12 and 14. 14th you are clean, ready to go. But every year you return to pay respect to the dead. Right? In many cultures, within, say, the broader religious framework. So what allows us to come back to that point in history is what animals do not do. Now, how will you make sense of such a past event? Let's say, for instance, we ask a question, begin with the question, what allowed us to become humans? Did we become humans and different from all other animals when we discovered the wheel, for instance? Did that allow us to do things in a better way? Did we become humans when we made food for ourselves? Prepare. Did we become more human when we invented agriculture, for instance? Those are questions which need to haunt the scientist. What would haunt a PhD scholar of English and cultural studies would be, who invented agriculture, men or women? Vote for men. Vote for women. Can you lead an argument in favor of men or women and win in that argument, for instance? That women needed to rest for a longer period of time than men at certain point in history because of their physicality, because of childbirth, to be very precise. That they needed food at one point of time for a longer period of time than men. That they were supposed to rear the children, their newborn, so they had to stay at one point of time at one place for a longer period of time. That's why they had to invent agriculture. They had to secure food for themselves. Can you or can you not think in such a direction, make logical connections and put forward that argument further, whether the argument might be wrong to some extent. That is what is the power of imagination a literary scholar should bring with him or her to the table. It's not the job of the scientist. So that's why we are saying that a series of questions with regard to the origin of a topic, the beginning of a subject, the beginning of your introduction, beginning of your abstract, the beginning of your chapter 1, the conclusion should come this way. That the whole thesis becomes an argument. So it will take you towards a couple of counter questions then. That are there grammatical errors? Now are there structural errors? Then most importantly, are these sentences connected to each other? Is your logic taking us towards a certain direction in terms of, say, arguments? Is the bibliography adequate? That you are talking about a subject, but you are talking about only one text. But there is a tradition of text that we might have to be aware of. In other words, has the candidate reviewed all the major thinkers' theories on a particular subject? So, one of the ways through which we were learned to do a PhD was by starting with a bibliography. How many of you are in the first or second year of PhD? Have you completed a bibliography? At least adding to it. Think about it. If not done yet, that means we have done a slow start. There's always a scope to improve, but that is how we started probably with a bibliography. Right. So the second one could be the review of literature and possibly to find a research gap on a particular subject. Or the next question would be, are there the favorites of the candidate or the supervisors listed? But that's also another trick to pass in an exam. The trick is, if you are sending things to a journal, the journals are now more obsessed with what is something called the impact factor. Have you heard of this term, impact factor? The sciences people would know it better. That there is something called H index. Note it down. Go back and check. H index and impact factor. How many apps are there in your mobile? Approximately 10, 20. What is the most used app? WhatsApp, Facebook. Think of the impact factor as an app, an application given by someone like the SSCI people, Social Science Citation Index, the Humanities Citation Index, Social Science Citation Index, and SSI, the Science Citation Index. Think that their app is installed in a particular journal. The journal pay the applications to be indexed over there. If you are indexed, then they generate at the end of the year what is called an impact factor, depending upon several things like the number of times an article is cited, number of times people are downloading, number of times they are being cited outside the publication purview of the journal, and so on and so forth. So one of the primary ways to get cited is to cite your own thing. That is how also the impact factor is calculated. So there is a diminishing image at this point of time. Yes. So, and unless you quote one or two articles from the same journal, there is a difficulty of getting into the journal also. So we should say that if you are sending a paper to a journal, that's a trick. I'm not speaking that in a public event. But it's always good to cite one or two articles from those journals itself. It feels good. How do you negotiate with such a critical issue? By finding the tricks of the trade. if the examiner happens to be from the same subject, meaning the reviewer, and his or her work is not there in the reading or reference list. Nowadays, people have started asking to self-cite themselves also. That's another bad thing, but that's the current scenario. How many minutes do I have? Have enough? Okay. So, what as scholars that you should do, you should not do, let's review quickly and get back to the last questions. What are we gaining out of it? We begin by telling a story. We started asking a couple of questions regarding a story. We started seeing what are the ways by which the literature's department they strive by rewriting currently, by speaking about rewriting, by questioning the canon, questioning the tradition, questioning the established order, by questioning what we see outside the world. As scholars, what should be our questions beyond the text that you are seeing? As scholars who are producing a thesis, we should ask several questions about the title, about the introduction, about the abstract. We should be in a position to find 5 keywords from a certain subject. We should be in a position to show some practical implication also. Not that every research can show some practical implication, but if it is possible, it's good for the world. The world is not always, say, in the ideal place. The world demands that you be productive. If you are not productive, you do not exist in this world. Anything that has become non-productive in this world, it is no more existing. So, we are dealing with a tradition of new people, those who know more WhatsApp than we do, those who know how to crack codes of the WhatsApp people. So we are dealing with people, those who would need more money than our parents did. Our parents were happy with one house. At this point of time, people are no more happy with one house. They want multiple houses in multiple different cities or towns. So we are dealing with a generation of literature students who are going to make money also. How is that possible? By getting into the trade. And by trade, I do not mean you should go and trade in the stock market. By understanding our trade and investing time and energy so that it will give us back. Say for instance, you produce a dictionary. Do you think it will not give you money? Say for instance, you are producing a book, perhaps stupid book in the world, or a cookery book at this point of time, how to cook sambar, or Three Idiots. Do you think Three Idiots does not give you money? The book is priced at 199 rupees. Amazon takes 30%. If the author gets 20 rupees per book, 1 million copies sold, Sitaramanji takes 30% as tax. Still you are left with how many millions? Think about it. So there's a possibility that what we do, what we are going to do, will generate not just money in terms of value, but intellectual property, and also it will be good for the universe. So I shall support Dr. Satpathy in his last statement that I dislike a thesis on a particular writer with 3 novels that you are going to work for a PhD. We should start moving away, look for some more practical things that should come out of our thesis. Maybe an argument, maybe some form of new knowledge. For some people, it will be a lot of money. For some people, it could be, say, a copyright. For some people, it could be, say, a patent. All are practical and possible, just we need to open our mind. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Rath. I am very happy that you kept our students very busy because it was the post-lunch session, so you didn't allow them to have a nap. Yeah, no, they did not sleep. They were busy in thinking. It is now your time to give him back. He asked me many questions. Now it is your time to ask him some questions where you think you have some problems. He could not understand certain points. So it is open for discussion. See, if you don't ask question, I will think that you have understood everything. Because only when you understand 100% you have no questions. Otherwise you should have certain questions. And I thank Dr. Rath for making this session lively by beginning giving the example from Khaman Dhokra till WhatsApp. And many of the students use the language of the WhatsApp even in answer book. So that is a pity, but that is the fact. So you can exploit his expertise, you can ask him certain questions.
Yes, shall we take that as a learning? That let's do WhatsApp, no harm, but do it correctly. As students of English literature particularly, type correctly. If there is a question, just don't leave with a period. Add a question mark. If it is I, don't write a small I, write a capital I. WhatsApp, more WhatsApp, WhatsApp every day. But I would say, let's do it. Just like we asked, we watched approximately 20 reels, even if there were 2 sessions today, there has been an engaging day. Is it not possible for us to make a reel, start doing things? Why don't you become producers? Why do you become consumers directly of something that is bad? Say for instance, the reels that are being displayed in YouTube currently for children. I don't know how many of you are growing a child right now who are approximately 5 to 8 years of age, but it is actually directly affecting their brain. I don't know how many of you are aware of it. That children are not listening to anything else except the reels. So, why don't we produce good contents if reels are currently the present of our times? That is what I mean to say. And take that learning forward, maybe it can give you some money on future. Right?
Any question? If you don't ask question, we will have to wait 15 minutes for tea outside. Because I have already asked him to come by 4 o'clock, never before that. Still you have time, if you have some doubts.
I was asked to stop at 3:30.
Okay.
Talked about Web of Science and UGC care list. But now UGC has abolished the care list as well.
It's gone.
It's gone.
So with that, what did we produce?
Sorry?
With that, what did we produce? We produced by paying a couple of thousand rupees to journals.
True.
And we have come across journals which, if you pay now, they will publish articles in say 2019 also. They still have space. So we produced a kind of ecosystem to cheat ourselves. Good that it is abolished. It should be completely abolished. Hmm. That publication should not be made compulsory. If you are interested, you do. Otherwise, teachers have many other things to do. You can teach. You can do plantation. If you are not interested in publishing, don't publish. But publication for the sake of publication should not bring bad name to our academy. But that's good for speaking. That's not meant for research scholars. That your life, our career, they do depend upon the publications that we hold. And those publications which are currently being indexed in Scopus, currently being indexed in Web of Science, AHCI, SSCI, they are being recognized. I am not saying they are good or bad. I am referring to 17th century where if you do not publish in Royal Society of England and their journals, you are not considered people of some capacity. Your thing was not considered knowledge. So the current trend in the academia devised by the West, endorsed by India, are doing much harm to our people, taking us back to say 17th century. But history itself repeats. Say for instance, we are cherishing the multiple entry-exit current. When did it begin? It began in America to bring back the black people who could not attend colleges because they confronted the law. So it allowed them a chance to go back to schools and colleges. We are cherishing it right now, thinking that people would go out of schools or colleges to an industry, work for a certain period of time, come back and take their degree. We're cherishing it currently. Not a bad thing, not a good thing, but history is being repeated.
The real problem lies is, according to me, I don't know how others would react to it, that why we are doing research. One is to identify the research gap and add new knowledge to the existing field of knowledge. Second is for getting degree, right? So when your entire aim is to just get the degree, I think that is where the quality deteriorates.
True, sir. But
Because see, earlier, before this UGC compulsion came, people were doing research, but it was not compulsory for them. And there were few theses, dissertations submitted, and people were getting it. The moment UGC announced, now PhD is minimum qualification, all of a sudden, mushrooming of thesis. So I think it has to do with that compulsion. Why? And why you are doing research. I don't know whether you agree with me or not.
no, I don't have a point to agree or disagree.
Yeah.
I have indeed concern
Yes. Same.
that without a PhD degree, many people are unable to get a career. I'm grateful, may told in the morning that many of our students are getting jobs in schools also, in the state of Gujarat. But in several other states, people are not getting a job with a master's degree.
Yeah.
And maybe for that, to engage them, we gave them a fellowship, enrolled them in a PhD program so that for 4 years they do not complain. If you think in that direction, we give them a net, we give them a gate, we take them to university, keep them for 5 years, and slip them by paying 35,000 or 10,000. We're giving them a fellowship, right? So that's another way to look at it. But let's be kind to ourselves,
Yeah.
suggesting that we are doing a good thing by questioning our canons, by questioning the existing knowledge, by producing new knowledge. And if our knowledge is to be validated by a global community, uh, that is what we are terming as peer review at this point of time. I do not see any harm in that. Just that it was being done some centuries ago somewhere else. We are doing the same thing, but unless we are validated by at least two people from the peer community, that should not be considered knowledge. So UGC is gone, the peer list, but for our own sake, for our own standard, we should have a yardstick that if this is published in these journals, yes, we should consider them knowledge. If not, it should have been reviewed by two members of our community to be passed as knowledge.
You are right, sir. I also agree to what Professor Sunil Shah has said. My worry is that PhD degree should not be made compulsory at the entry level. If someone wants to get promotion, then there can be anything. So at the entry level, because it is considered compulsory, all target the time, that is 3 years. And most of the students for the first 2 years, they don't do anything. During the third year, they run. And they write all the chapters that they could not write earlier 2 years. So we all have the capacity to work in a serious way, provided we are very serious. So this is actually the endless debate. I would like to end it. If you have any question, otherwise I will thank Dr. Yeah, Sergio, please.
I have two questions. First question is that just if your experience of your students or from anyone, the thesis went fail, and you observe some kind of thing that you should the things should be taken care of. If you try to get better. So, and the second question would be, does PhD make anybody scholar? That's my second question.
What was the end of the first question? What is the last one?
Does PhD make anybody scholar?
Earlier question.
Ali, first question. First question is that if you have an experience of your students or another students, that these thesis went fail, and you observe something out of that thesis, that some kind of thing should have not been done, and that particular things you can tell us, enlighten us, to be taken care of.
All right. My first student ran away. After 6 months of coursework. The second student was a friend of mine. He ran away after 3.5 years. The third one was 2 years senior to me. She completed after 7 years, no, 6 years. Now, after that, I have become kinder not only to myself but also to my scholars. Meaning, I have matured to some extent. It also means that I can make people work from the beginning itself. Just like I personally in my life I have started maturing, the departments also mature in a similar fashion. The academia also matures, but they mature not with time but with decades. We mature say within 5 to 7 years, but a department matures say after 30, 40, 50 years or so, because people do come and go. To establish a culture, it takes about 30 to 50 years. So the bigger institutes, bigger in this sense, which are very highly funded at this point of time in India, they do have a very established mechanism that one thesis be judged within India, another must go abroad. And the pool of researchers given as examiners is very long. Say 5 for Indian case, 5 for the cases from abroad. Some have started implementing other rules also, that NIRF 50 should be implemented for India, QS 300 or 500 should be implemented for uh, universities abroad. So these are the mechanisms developed and devised by different universities. Our state universities within Orissa and the university that I studied in, University of Hyderabad, they did have mechanism to send it to two people within India. That does not mean that you will pass and the supervisor will send it to a friend of his. In my case, my supervisor, I will not tell you his name, did not send it, the thesis to his friends. The head of the department sent it to an enemy of his. I found it out later. So when the first report came, my supervisor said we just fought. So you can imagine a personal vendetta being observed within the report if you are clever enough. But let's be honest to ourselves. There is nobody in this particular hall who would be kind to you if you are not doing your work properly. And do not expect it from your teachers also. We are very unkind people when it comes to work. We are very kind people when we see you outside. That's it. So, yes or no? I shall say there should be mechanisms. I should say the mechanisms slowly get established the moment we learn who is in front of us. And it goes on. It's a circle.
There was another question also, sir,
Which
that was asked.
Yes.
What do we get out of a PhD degree?
We don't get.
Sanju, am I right? But I think, do you not find yourself changed? You are,
Very much so.
yeah, then why are you asking this question? You are a senior PhD scholar and you should inspire even our MA semester 1 and 3
No,
scholars.
actually the question was
So,
framed that in terms of getting job. In terms of getting job, if one person is having PhD and
True.
one person doesn't have PhD, so the person is having PhD, can we take the person as more scholar than person who doesn't have PhD?
May I know your name?
Sarju.
Sergio. Uh, IITs are supposed to be one of the very elite institutes in this country. Supposed to be. I was destined to be a seller of pesticides back at home in a small village. Had it not been my case, I would have done some little amount of agriculture. These were the skills that I was introduced to. I am sitting in an IIT only because of my PhD degree. Does that answer your question? So, in another way, it's the PhD that did the miracle so that we are talking right now.
we shall have only the last question. But before that, what I say is, if you do PhD, whatever the procedure you follow, but you do at least something, you will know in that what is bibliography, what are references, you will read about something. So it is but natural that a scholar with PhD and without PhD, there will be a difference. And just to add the lighter side, what Rath sir has said, actually under me, four students got their PhD degree, but two of them made me run away. This is opposite to what he said. Actually, he made the scholars run away, but two of them made me run away. That was the case. Yes, jokes apart. Yeah.
Firstly, sir, your topic is really very interesting and helpful for all of us. I think the most question asked right now, till now, in all sessions, is this session, your session, the most, because it's really helpful. And my question is, today in today's generation, we all are having and using easily ChatGPT. and we have a lot more things to read. Then why? What are the drawbacks to not use this thing? I want to know the drawbacks.
Uh, Research scholars have a luxury of time, not shortage of time. Please do understand. We are there for almost 4 years on a subject, out of which about 6 months would be for coursework. 6 months you sleep, so 1 year. Still you have 3 years. You go to the sample text one. This is what we did not take up.
Yes.
When you go home, read it, put a title, write a summary in about 60 words. Go to ChatGPT thereafter. Scan the first page. Ask ChatGPT to summarize it in 60 words. Exercise 2. Exercise 3. You go to Cloud. Cloud is another software. Ask Cloud to write a ChatGPT. Sorry, summary. Compare these three. Take the best one. Now you rewrite it. Follow the same exercise a second time. See who wins. What kind of an abstract that you would be in a position to compose thereafter on a very simple subject, and what kind of abstracts would ChatGPT allow you to compose. You would see that you have started training ChatGPT when you start thinking about it and use your own brain. You will see the difference in yourself. By using your brain, your own mind, what difference you can make to a very simple subject like this. In fact, I take one whole class where people do an exercise based on it. That we keep on adding similar items to ChatGPT. Now ChatGPT can give you a break in your life. Say for instance you ask that my income is 1 lakh rupee a month. This is my household expenditure. How shall I save? It would be in a position to give you a detailed picture of how you are saving. How is it growing? In what ways it should grow? And the depth in terms of growing and life satisfaction can come only from within you when we are using our own brain. On a future day, it might give you a simulation, it might give you some kind of depth, but at this point of time, no. So that's what.
Thank you, Professor Rath. I am very happy and I thank you once again because you have helped us, and by us I mean these supervisors, because very often we have to tell you how to structure the thesis and all, so that has been said by him. So I thank you once again. I also thank you participants for having at least a few questions. Thank you.